I'm on a mission to reach my first 1,000 subscribers, and I need your support. If you love movies, reviews, and great stories, hit that subscribe button and join me on this journey. Thank you.
The man was tightly bound to a chair, a fishing line extending from his mouth, threaded through a spinning wheel mounted on the wall, and tied securely to a doorknob. A fishing hook was deeply embedded in his stomach. Any slight pull on the line would send waves of excruciating pain through his body. The woman standing before him showed no mercy. She was willing to go to any lengths to find out who had murdered her husband. Her husband, Yvan, had been an elite counterterrorism agent for the French task force. 3 weeks earlier, he had been sent to Brazil to investigate a case, only to be ambushed by a local gang. Yvan, despite his superior combat skills, was vastly outnumbered. Though severely wounded, he managed to seize a weapon from one of the attackers, take down several of them, and sprint toward the French embassy. But just as he was about to reach safety, the gang caught up and gunned him down, leaving his lifeless body sprawled across the street. Mere minutes later, Yvan's superior at headquarters, Romy, received the grim news and immediately informed Yvan's wife, Lisa. Once she had been a fellow agent, working alongside her husband, but she had given up her career after their son passed away from illness. Now grief struck her again, but what devastated her even more was what Romy told her next. There was suspicion that Yvan had been involved in a drug trafficking operation in Brazil, which might have led to his death. Lisa flatly rejected the accusation. She knew her husband better than anyone, and was certain he would never be involved in criminal activity. However, before she could clear his name, she had to travel to Brazil to identify his body. At the forensic lab, Lisa was overcome with emotion as she saw Yvan's corpse riddled with bullet wounds, his body barely intact. Sorrow and rage burned inside her, and she vowed to uncover the truth. Retrieving a data drive from Yvan's laptop, she connected it to her own device and discovered a series of crucial video files. They revealed that, before his death, Yvan had been investigating a counterfeit drug operation. It seemed he had uncovered something dangerous, which ultimately led to his assassination. Without hesitation, Lisa looked up the company printed on the drug packaging and found out that Interpol in Rio de Janeiro had recently taken down a counterfeit drug ring. More importantly, the lead officer in that investigation was a man named Dumont, who had a connection to Yvan. Determined not to let her husband's death be forgotten, Lisa took action. She traveled to Interpol's office in Rio to confront Dumont, demanding information about the case. But as a law enforcement officer, he refused to disclose anything. Lisa had anticipated his resistance. Before leaving, she glanced at a bulletin board in the office and noticed a peculiar photo, a man's face pinned directly below Yvan's. It was clear he was somehow linked to Yvan's murder. Seizing an opportunity while Dumont was distracted, Lisa discreetly tore the photo from the board, folded it, and hid it inside her coat. She then found a hotel room overlooking the square where her husband had once walked. From her window, she spotted a group of arms dealers conducting business below. She wasted no time and approached them. After explaining her intent, one of the dealers took her to a weapons exchange point by motorcycle. The leader of the arms ring was a woman known as Big Mama, though her so-called restaurant business was merely a front for her real trade. Without hesitation, Lisa pulled out 2 stacks of cash to purchase weapons. Big Mama ordered her men to retrieve 2 submachine guns and 2 handguns from a freezer, placing them on the table. However, as Lisa inspected the weapons, the dealers attempted to double-cross her. One of them pressed a gun to the back of her head. Lisa feigned surrender, but in a lightning-fast move, she disarmed her attacker and turned the gun on Big Mama, demanding information about the man in the photograph. Realizing the severity of the situation, Big Mama revealed that the man belonged to a gang known as Peace'em. Lisa gathered her weapons and made her exit, swiping a few sticks of TNT on her way out. Following Big Mama's lead, Lisa traveled to a district called Jhoben. There, she purchased a 1969 Ford Mustang for mobility. She roamed the area, showing the photograph and asking around. Eventually, a woman carrying a child pointed her to a cafe called Salvador, where her target was last seen. Without hesitation, Lisa headed straight to the cafe and spotted the man chatting with friends. She waited patiently until he left, then trailed him to a bar on the outskirts of town. Inside the bar, she marched directly to his table and threw the torn photograph in front of him. The man, unfazed, smirked and taunted her. Moments later, chaos erupted as patrons panicked and scrambled for the exit. Lisa swiftly drew her gun, took down the bartender who attempted to intervene, and ducked behind the bar counter. When the bartender tried to peek over, she shot him dead. The man's crew tried to retaliate, but Lisa's superior marksmanship gave her the upper hand. One by one, they fell, until finally her target was hit and collapsed to the floor. Lisa approached him coldly and fired another round, ensuring he wouldn't get back up. As he writhed in agony, he spilled a crucial piece of information before succumbing to his wounds. Wasting no time, Lisa grabbed his phone, collecting any useful data, and exited the bar. However, the moment she stepped outside, a wave of dizziness and nausea hit her. Something was wrong. Still clutching the dead man's phone, Lisa used it to call a police chief she had been keeping tabs on. Later that night, she watched from a distance as the officer left the precinct. She tailed him briefly before driving away, preparing for the next phase of her plan. The following morning, as the police chief left his home, a young boy suddenly ran up to him and dumped a bucket of something foul over his head before dashing away. Furious, the officer gave chase, only to be led into a dark basement. The moment he stepped inside, the boy swiftly locked the door behind him. The remaining exit was also sealed shut. It was only then that the officer realized he had walked straight into a trap. As he bent down to check, a strange smell filled the air. But before he could record anything, the situation spiraled out of control. At that moment, we learned from Alves that a private security company named Pereira had offered $20,000 to have Liza's husband eliminated. Tempted by the sum, Anvet didn't hesitate. He hired a local gang to attack Even. After hearing the full story, Liza demanded Anvet hand over his phone. Cornered, he complied, but in the very next second, she coldly dropped a lighter, igniting a raging inferno. To her, anyone involved in her husband's death deserved no mercy. Anvet ultimately paid the price for his actions. Back at her hotel, Liza found Pereira's number on Anvet's phone and called him. The next morning, she visited Pereira's office under the guise of a journalist. The walls were adorned with paintings and fish models. Pereira proudly boasted about being an avid fisherman. Little did he know, this passion would seal his fate just minutes later. Liza pretended to verify some documents and handed Pereira an envelope. The moment he opened it, his face drained of color. It contained photos of Even, alive. Before Pereira could react, Liza swiftly subdued him and knocked him unconscious. When he came to, she forced him to swallow 2 fish hooks and demanded to know who was truly behind everything. She wanted to meet the real mastermind, Andre, the head of a counterfeit drug operation. However, Pereira confessed that he only contacted Andre through email and had no direct phone number. His role was merely security. He wasn't an employee of Andre's. Pereira continued, revealing that Liza's husband had crossed the wrong people, which led to his murder. If she wanted to reach Andre, she needed to target his son, Junior. Pereira was responsible for protecting Junior, meaning capturing him would guarantee a meeting with Andre. Liza wasted no time. She took a tablet containing incriminating evidence, locked Pereira's office, broke the key, and calmly exited the building. Meanwhile, Pereira's bodyguards sensed something was off and stormed in. Deep in the mountains, Andre received news of Pereira's death. Surveillance footage showed a woman as the culprit, leaving him stunned. He ordered his men to hunt her down at all costs. He needed to know who she was and what she wanted. Meanwhile, Liza had already captured Junior and forced him to call his father. But the person who answered was Andre's butler. When Junior pleaded for help, the butler remained indifferent, instructing him to hand the phone to Liza. With chilling detachment, he informed her that Andre didn't care about Junior's life. To Andre, his son was nothing more than a disposable pawn. Realizing the extent of Andre's madness, Liza knew she needed a flawless plan. Junior, having overheard his father's callous words, finally broke. He revealed that Andre was running a massive counterfeit drug empire, reaping obscene profits. As vice president of the company, Junior had access to financial records and confirmed that most of their revenue stemmed from selling fake medicine. Liza now had undeniable proof. Her husband, Even, had discovered Andre's secret manufacturing plant and was ambushed before he could expose the truth. There was no longer any doubt. Andre was the true mastermind. With all the necessary information in hand, Liza and Junior set out for the plant. Spanning hundreds of acres, the facility was heavily secured. Using his executive status, Junior easily led Liza past security checkpoints. Parking in a concealed spot, she activated a timed explosive and armed herself for the mission. As they infiltrated the lab, security quickly spotted them. Alarms blared, and the surveillance system flagged Liza as a threat, escalating the situation. Despite the chaos, Junior managed to distract the guards, allowing Liza to press forward. He revealed that Andre had stolen security codes from a top pharmaceutical company, Forbest, allowing him to produce counterfeit drugs with serial numbers identical to real ones. This meant Andre's fake medicine was indistinguishable from the genuine product. With this knowledge, Liza and Junior hurried toward the main production site, located 3 kilometers away. There, Andre had enslaved villagers, forcing them to work under horrific conditions to sustain his operations. But soon it would all come to an end. As soon as they stepped into the factory, a heavily armed guard blocked their way. Junior attempted to use his status to intimidate the man, but Liza had no patience for negotiations. Without hesitation, she pulled out her gun and took him down, grabbing his weapon before pressing forward into the production area. She ordered all workers to evacuate, then pulled the pin from a grenade and tossed it into the laboratories. If she was going to destroy this place, she would make sure it could never be rebuilt. At that moment, a group of guards led by Blackjack stormed in, unleashing a relentless hail of gunfire. Liza fought back while trying to retreat with Junior, but his lack of combat experience made him an easy target. He was hit. Panicked, Liza tore off her jacket and pressed it against his wound to slow the bleeding. Knowing he wouldn't make it out, Junior asked her to leave him a grenade. Liza understood this was the only way, so she honored his request. While she continued toward the central storage facility on the 3rd floor to plant the final bomb, Junior clutched the grenade, waiting for the guards to storm in. In that moment, as his life flashed before his eyes, memories of his happiest days with his family surfaced. Liza had already made up her mind. She wouldn't leave him behind. Slowly, she pressed the detonator. The explosion engulfed the entire floor in flames, the shock wave throwing Junior out of the building, slamming him onto the crates below. At the same time, the car bomb in the parking lot reached zero. When Liza regained consciousness, she was no longer inside the factory. Her wounds had been carefully bandaged. The villagers had found her and taken her in. An elderly woman approached and, in a gentle voice, told her something that left her in shock. Liza was pregnant. She couldn't believe it. A few days later, as her strength returned, she wandered through the village and made a grim discovery. The entire town was flooded with Andre's counterfeit drugs. Many of the villagers bore scars, some even suffering from severe illnesses. Andre had turned them into test subjects for his cruel experiments. Realizing her presence put the villagers in danger, Liza reached out to Romy, hoping he could arrange for an extraction. Soon after, her late husband's former partner, Richard, received the message and rushed to her aid. Years ago, he and Evan had come to Brazil to investigate the counterfeit drug operation, but Richard had barely escaped with his life. He wasn't going to let history repeat itself. This time, he would make sure Liza got out alive. However, Andre was already onto them. A traitor within the village had leaked Liza's location. Before she could leave, a mercenary team led by Blackjack arrived, demanding answers. When they learned Liza had escaped, they immediately pursued her. Just as Liza and Richard reached their extraction point, a sniper from the mountains took out their vehicle's engine. Forced to abandon the car, they returned fire, but the enemy was too far away. At that moment, a rescue helicopter appeared on the horizon. The snipers scrambled to reload, preparing to take down the chopper. The helicopter carried a team of elite operatives. As they rappelled down, they were ambushed by a hidden force lying in wait, triggering an intense firefight. Although they managed to overpower the enemy, the cost was devastating. Bodies littered the mountainside, blood soaking the dirt. Liza and Richard were still making their way toward the peak, where the helicopter was set to land, when Blackjack suddenly emerged from the shadows. In an instant, Liza became his hostage, but instead of killing her immediately, he sneered and forced her to remove her bulletproof vest. As she stood defenseless, he chuckled. "I wonder, is it a boy or a girl?" Blackjack would never get his answer. Moments later, he paid the ultimate price for his arrogance. Liza and Richard made it onto the helicopter just in time, escaping in dramatic fashion. The golden sunrise bathed the cabin in light, signaling a new beginning. Andre's crimes had been fully exposed to the world. His entire network, including the corrupt officials who protected him, was dismantled. Justice had finally been served. But somewhere, one of his remaining henchmen sat watching the news, his face void of emotion. Without a word, he picked up a pistol, aimed it at the screen, and pulled the trigger, sending a final chilling message before the screen went dark.
Today's story comes to an end, but the journey of exploring great movies continues. If you enjoyed this content, don't forget to hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any exciting upcoming videos. Also, leave a comment sharing your thoughts on the movie. Your support is the biggest motivation for me to create even more quality content. See you in the next video.